Hi everyone, it's Jack here from Mobile Pixels. It's 5:54. We're gonna start at 6 p.m. I'm just testing the audio. Um, if y'all can hear me, please type something into the chat. And well, I'm live. And we're gonna start at 6 p.m. promptly. So, Jane, if we could hear me, please type something into the chat. I see some hearts flying around. Jane, can you hear me? If you can, please type something into the chat. Thanks, Raymond. That confirms it. I'll be back in 5 minutes. We're gonna get a few things ready and we'll start at 6 o'clock. Okay, hi everybody. It's Jack back. It's 6 o'clock. We're gonna start the live stream. So thank you for waiting. I'm here in our conference room with our engineer Jason, who designed the Tetra keyboard. So if anything isn't working, it's his fault. So I think there's probably. Can you guys not hear me? Output, input, microphone. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Now, couldn't at first. Okay, great. All right, great. Yeah, I was just saying, I'm here with Jason, the engineer, our engineer behind the Tetra keyboard. And if anything doesn't work, it's his fault. So I'll share his email once
fingers crossed.
this thing's over. Anyways, so we have a list of questions that we've collected from the comment board. So we'll go over those in a little bit. I think let's start off with a quick demo. So we did this in our first live stream, and unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to do a second one until now. So if anybody has any questions during the demo, feel free to ask. Jason, let's start. I'm gonna turn my. So we have it connected to a Dell laptop, and the keyboard is in front of it. Do you wanna? What would you like to demonstrate first?
Let's go with the keyboard first, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is the Tetra keyboard. As you can see, it's magnetized to form like a traditional staggered layout. You can also, split it and have a split layout to make sure your form is most ergonomic. So on the left here, you have 5 shortcuts key, just lock screen, notification, mail, browser, and your task switcher. So this is what we found most used in productive office work.
So those are basically hard coded quick keys.
Yeah.
Lock screen, calendar, email, browser, and switch between tabs. It works between both Windows and Mac. So these are hard coded. The Tetra keyboard comes with a Tetra app. I just want to clarify, which we'll go into later. And the app allows you to program hotkeys onto the touch screen. All right, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, so like Jack says, should I jump into the Tetra?
Let's do the different modes, and then
Yeah, so let me lay the screen flat first. So you have here, this is called a splice mode. So this is when the keyboard is magnetized to the side of the screen. So in this mode, the keyboard is charged from the screen, which is connected to the laptop.
The display has to be hardwired to the laptop. By hardwire, I mean like a USB cable, because it takes power from the laptop, but it also sends signal back into the laptop. While it's connected, if you magnetize the keyboards to it, the display itself acts as a charger that charges both halves of the keyboard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the second mode is what we call the stack mode. It's also magnetized, but in this mode, the keyboard just acts as a traditional staggered layout. It sits in front of your screen.
Yeah, this is for people who prefer a more conventional setup. So the display acts as a peripheral, or the touchscreen hotkey app. You could have it in front of your keyboard. Typically, we see this in a more like an office environment where the desktop monitor is much higher. So the display sits in front of the keyboard without blocking the view of the desktop monitor.
Yeah. And the last one would be the split mode. This mode, you can just adjust your keyboard length based on your shoulder width. We also have actually a tenting block on the side. So it snaps on the top of the keyboard. So you can create a 5-degree tent. It also goes in the middle. It's also good for tilting too, 5-degree tilt. So you have a more neutral wrist position that way.
Yep. The best feature on the this split mode is that you can allocate the two halves anywhere adjustable to your shoulder width, and then you could also sort of tilt it so your wrist is typing in a more neutral position where you're not doing this. By doing this, you force yourself into forearm pronation, which is the root cause of carpal tunnel syndrome. Um, let's demo the hotkeys again, the hard coded ones.
Yeah, sure. So the first one is just lock screen. So once you press it, it locks the laptop. Um, these are pretty responsive, and it's pretty good on the go. And this is the notification slash calendar key. So you just press it to check on what's new with your laptop. And there's a calendar key. It just calls out your calendar. And then browser. You should call out your default browser, which at this point would be Edge. And the test switcher key. It just jumps from desktop view to a single individually used app.
Yeah. The task switcher, as a sort of as a function of the Windows operating system, when you hit that tab, you're technically switching between both screens. So both screens will show all the tabs on the touch screen as well as your main monitor. What is their function on Linux?
So, like any Bluetooth keyboard, our keyboard supports Linux system. It would just three quick shortcuts key just wouldn't work with Linux for now.
Which do they all not work, or some of them doesn't work?
So the calendar key wouldn't work. Also, the mail key wouldn't work.
Okay, but the lock screen, the browser, and the tab switcher,
Yeah,
those three keys will work. What about the touch screen? Can you talk about that on Linux?
Yeah, so the touchscreen, there's two ways to use it. One way is that you use it as an external display, where you can just put any content you want, like a calendar, your notes, sticky notes, and also your email. It's like a stationary dashboard almost. But we also developed the Tetra app. You can use it individually and then overlay it on top of your secondary display, which is the Tetra screen.
Yeah. So let's talk about the app in a little bit. Our touch software app has programmable gestures. Do you want to talk about that and also demonstrate how the gestures work? I know we have a Windows computer here, but the native Mac gestures also work with our touch display. Basically, you just have to go into the menus and turn on those gestures. So we'll demo it on a Windows for now.
Yeah. So when you jump into the app, you can actually see there is a, 4x3 layout. This is called just action buttons. And from the action buttons, you can pick different programs um, to map to. So in this case, we mapped it Word for the first one, and then PowerPoint, Excels, and Outlook. So all these buttons are customizable. And when you go on to the reconnect it a little bit, the touchscreen might be not registering. So when you click on the hamburger menu, there's a drop down where it leads you to web section.
So there are how many pre-programmed boards are there?
So we have
1,
seven.
2, 3, 4,
8 actually.
5, 6, 7. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So we have one for productivity. It's pre-programmed, so you could choose to use what's pre-programmed in there, or you just create your own. So we have productivity. Do you want to pull up productivity?
Yeah, sure.
So that's just your productivity apps: calendar, Word, PowerPoint, and the next one is media, right?
Yeah, actually web
Web.
browsing.
Okay, so these are commonly visited web apps, web browsers. Also has a media player controller. So if you're listening to music or watching a movie, if you're live on not live, but online, you could use it to control the volume. You could play or pause. The next one,
The next one we have media control.
media. So it's similar to that, but it pulls up popular media accounts like Netflix, Hulu, that type of stuff. And what else we got?
We have a zoom control
Yeah.
board actually.
So yeah, so basically all the Zoom controls you'd have in a Zoom meeting are now at the tip of your finger. You could raise your hand, share your screen, invite people. I think somebody had asked this before. Now, does it work with Microsoft Teams?
Yeah, so this is actually just mapping to the shortcuts of the native app function itself. Technically, if there's a shortcuts to mute your audio, you can map it to that, and it'll work with Microsoft Teams.
So, so you could just program
Yeah.
yourself like a Microsoft Teams control board.
Yeah, but by default, we set it to Zoom.
Okay.
Work with Zoom.
Um, okay, next one, app launcher.
Yeah, so for the app launcher, you can put any apps that's linked to your local installed app on your
Yep.
laptop.
Yep.
It's pretty straightforward. And files and folders, you can also program it to open any folder in file.
Somebody's asking if the Tetra app is running on Linux or Windows 11.
It's Windows 10, 11, and Mac only.
Yeah.
for the
So
moment.
so the Tetra app doesn't work with Linux. It works with Windows and Mac. The keyboard, the touch screen, and if and everything else works. Well, other than the 5 hotkeys, hard programmed hotkeys, only 3 of them will work with Linux. The app does not work with Linux, but the keyboard will function normally with Linux. The touchscreen will work with Linux, and the display itself will work as a peripheral display or a secondary display on Linux, just not the app. Is it possible to configure the Tetra gesture with better touch tool? I'm not sure what that is.
Better touch tool.
I think tentatively speaking, the answer is no, because we never heard of that tool before. We license our touch software from somebody else, and it has many different gestures already inside. We by default we turned on the most commonly used ones, but in the instructions, you'll know how to access the other gestures. Do the control boards change based on the application that is active?
It does not automatically switch to the map to the program, but you can manually switch it.
So it doesn't automatically switch. So I guess if you hit the Netflix app and now you're watching Netflix, but you need the media player,
Right.
you'll have to go find your media player board. So right now it's not automatic. It's an app for Mac OS? Yes, the Mac is available for both Windows and Mac OS. Make hamburger menu items bigger, easier to touch.
Yeah, right. So you can actually switch to, I guess, different resolution, and they'll zoom in on the app a little bit more. Right now,
So you have to change the resolution on the
Yeah.
display, but it's not in the app itself.
Right.
Okay. So maybe that's like a feature we could build in.
Right.
The icons can be changed. So, well, that's not 100% true, but depending on the number of icons you have on your board, since if you were to customize it, you could have different numbers of icons. The smaller that number, the bigger the buttons will be. It'll automatically scale depending on how many icons you have. It enables user to customize pretty much every way of interacting with the OS. Keyboard shortcuts, trackpad gesture, mouse customization. The gesture, it has trackpad gestures for, yeah, I guess it does have trackpad gestures. I just don't want anyone to mistakenly think that it works as a trackpad. It does not work as a trackpad, but the gestures on there, you could scroll, you could switch tabs, you could switch spaces on Mac, but it will not work as a mouse. What Mac OS version does the Tetra require?
It goes from Monterey up and above, and they show all work with, say, Sonoma, Monterey, Big Sur.
Sonoma is older than Monterey, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
Sonoma
Sonoma
and
is
higher.
newer actually. So
Oh, Sonoma is newer. Okay.
anything above Big Sur will be compatible.
Okay. So Monterey and newer. I'm still using macOS 14.6 Mojave, and I have no intention to upgrade anytime soon. Does it work with Mojave? I think this is one of the things we just have to test. With the computers we have in the office, I don't think we have a Mojave version, but we could test it and leave a comment under the YouTube video once we post it. My guess is it will most likely work. The keyboard is just like a Bluetooth keyboard. It's a true wireless Bluetooth keyboard. The display, it's a USB display that has touchscreen. So those two things are conventional. It'll work with anything. Now the only thing that needs to be tested is the Tetra app, which we think will work with the Mojave. We just have to test it because it works with all the newer operating systems for Mac. How many points can the Tetra recognize? It's a 10-point touch, so 10 digits at the same time. Yeah, no worries. Keep the questions coming. We like to make this as interactive as possible. Some of the things we may or may not, well, we may have not thought of, we'll test it. So this is great for us as well. I think we were gonna demo something else, but I can't remember. Did you demo the gestures already?
The gesture, right?
Yeah.
Support. This cable might need to be switched out a little.
Yeah, I think we're having some issues with our USB cable.
Maybe I'll figure it out at the end. So yeah. So
Just turn it a little more.
Windows gesture is pretty much native. If you connect to like a external touchscreen, so 4 fingers left and right swipe is switching desktop.
Maybe I can show the
So you can have different desktop arrangement setup. So I can switch desktop and an up swipe to bring back whatever that's on the screen before. It's
cool.
pretty similar to Mac actually.
Well, Mac switches between spaces, but when you switch between spaces on Mac, is it like Windows where both monitors will change at the same time?
I think with Mac, you can just change whatever screen you're working on, like where your pointer is at. So it would be a little bit different from Windows.
Cool. So how long does the Tetra battery last?
It should last you for straight week of work if you turn on the underglow. But if you shut that off, it should last you for months without issue, 6 months or so, with 8 hours of.
6 months with 8 hours of use.
Yeah.
So when you're not using it, automatically disconnects and goes to sleep.
Yeah, for certain. I think like after 20 minutes of inactivity, the keyboard just go to deep sleep. You have to wake it up.
Okay. Let's see if we have any more questions. Sorry, I have to move the computer because I can't read it. Let's see, where are we? Can the keyboard or monitor work on their own? Just the keyboard? Yes. Great question. So the Tetra keyboard comes with a travel pouch. During the development phase, as we were testing this, we found it actually pretty comfortable to carry it with us in the backpack. So the pouch itself has a spot for the display, but we understand if you're traveling, you may not want to carry the display with you. So it snaps together like this, magnetized, and fits nicely into the pouch. The slot on the side is for your USB cable, and so this packs up on the top, and your USB cable will go on the side. Yeah, so you just stuff this in and close it. So this comes with every Tetra keyboard. So it's great for people that would like to travel with this. It works a lot better than one of those fold-up keyboards because this is a full-size keyboard. By breaking it in half, you could really tuck it away nicely. Let's see. For Mac, will have a Macs older than Big Sur. Yes, I was saying earlier. Yeah, Mojave we have not tested because we didn't have one in our office, but we'll get one arranged. I don't think there will be any issues, but we'll leave a comment under our YouTube video. What gigahertz Bluetooth does it work with? It's
It's
4.0.
yeah, Bluetooth 5.0 actually.
So it's Bluetooth 5.0. Gigahertz is the radio frequency USB connectors, right? So this does not work through the USB dongle. It's just native Bluetooth 5.0. Let's see. Is the USB cable USB A or C? If it's only C, would it function with an A or B port? So the cable is USB C to C, but it comes with a USB C to A adapter. So short answer, it works with both USB C and USB A. You use the adapter for older computers that only have USB A ports. Obviously, I would recommend the USB C port. The data transfer speed is much faster. Also, power delivery, so your keyboards will charge faster with USB C. USB A, USB 3.0 protocol sends power at 900 milliamps, I believe. 5 volts, that's 4.5 watts, so it charges a lot slower. You also need power for the screen. So if you take power for the screen and then what's left of 4.5 watts into your keyboard is not much. So, but most computers these days, they come standard with USB Type-C. So I would recommend using it with a Type-C port. If you're in a pinch, you only have USB-A, it'll work as well. Let's see. Does display work with USB-A? Yes, just answer that. No, Macs don't switch all monitors, if only switch the current monitor. Okay, yeah, I think that's what Jason had said. On Macs, depending on where your cursor is, the gesture is going to control the screen where your cursor is currently on. Are the keys backlit in addition to the surround glow? Is glow RGB?
Yeah, so we have 3 level of brightness for backlit key.
So the keys are backlit.
Yeah.
There are 3 levels of brightness.
Yeah, you can also turn it off.
The surround glow is only in white. It's not in RGB. Are the gesture working with Linux?
I don't believe so. No. So the gesture, so it all depends on the OS native supports. So Windows OS, it supports gesture natively, and Mac OS as well. And
can you check on the UPDD apps to see if they have control for Linux?
They have the Linux version. We haven't licensed that one yet.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so right now it doesn't, but it doesn't mean in the future it won't. So we'll have to look into that. The software we license, they do support Linux apparently. But we haven't tried it yet. Okay, when connected together, does it auto turn on and off so the key presses aren't sent to the computer? It has an off switch.
Yeah, it does have an off switch. So it's located in the back.
It's not that smart, unfortunately. It's got a switch on the back. So if you're ready to tuck it away, you just have to flick the switch and it's going to turn off. So it doesn't turn off automatically when you snap them together. I think one of the reasons why we didn't go with it, as you guys know, we sell a bunch of portable monitors. And on some versions of our monitor, when you slide the monitor in and it automatically turns off, those things are activated by magnets. And sometimes if there's a magnet on your laptop, so a lot of laptops use magnets as proximity sensors, it might trip our switch and turn the monitor off. So I think we decided to do away with the automated kind of switches. But flicking the switch on the bottom is pretty easy. So before you tuck it away, just flick the switch and it's off. I'll turn this one back on. Okay. Any update on the numpad? Yeah, I mentioned before in our first video, to launch the numpad and ship it with the Tetra keyboard is pretty much impossible. So we've begun tooling for the numpad. It'll probably take another month or 2. It really depends on how crazy it is with Christmas production at the factories. But either case, the numpad will be available for purchase on our website. And we have all the backer information. for the Tetra keyboard, so we'll be sure to send coupon with a really steep discount to make it a great deal for the backers of the Tetra keyboard. Is the keyboard programmable? QMK or Vial? I'm not sure what those mean. Oh, what that?
Yeah, so the keyboard is not programmable via QMK, but we have over-the-air update via Link, so you can update it with an Android APK.
So is it programmable? Yes, with an Android APK.
So that it's over-the-air update. So we push out a firmware, and the way you install it is to push that through an Android APK file. So it's not programmable on the keyboard side.
Okay, for something like that, we could put it on our website, right? And for the really techie people who want to go into it, I think we could give them the instructions to do so.
Yeah.
Okay. Will the numpad fit in the? Yeah, no, unfortunately, that's not going to fit in the case. All of this was done before we even started making the numpad. Normally, in a typical Kickstarter campaign, none of this would be done until after the funds are collected. Since this is our 9th campaign, we're actually launching our 10th campaign in a month. We've done a lot of the work ahead of time, and it wasn't until when the campaign was live did backers give us the idea to launch a numpad. But by then, everything else is pretty much done. So I think if you're traveling, maybe you don't really need a numpad because you obviously have those keys on the keyboard itself. I understand it's a lot easier to use if you're an accountant or you use numbers a lot. But nah, the answer is no. It wouldn't. I guess unless you decide not to carry the display with you, you could slide the numpad in here. There should be plenty of room for that. Cool. Yeah, if anybody has any more questions, keep it coming. We've got a couple more minutes until the end of our live. But as you guys are thinking of questions, we are shameless plug. We're launching a new campaign early October. Something completely different from what we've done before. So hopefully everyone will like it. Let's see. Can I recall I need a software driver installed to use keyboard display? Any details about it? Software driver. I think it's just the app you have to install.
Yeah.
The
So if you're connecting with the USB-A,
right. So we have a video driver you have to install. So I mentioned before USB-C. I didn't mention it before. I should mention it now. USB Type-C. It's pretty much plug and play, just like how you would plug in a monitor into a USB-C port. It will turn on. USB-C has native support for DisplayPort signal, while USB-A is only sending out USB signal. So a display driver has to be installed to use it with a USB-A port. So that we have versions of that driver for pretty much any operating system out there. It's on our website, free to download. So yes, if you're using a USB-A port, you will need to download the driver. Can the monitor click to one side of the keyboard instead of the center? No, but you could just put it on the side. It doesn't click. Well, we should talk about this then. So when the two halves are connected and you need to charge the monitor, obviously you can't charge it with the display since you're not connected to the display, but there's a charger port on the side. So if you have the keyboards disconnected from the display, but you need to charge it, you could just charge it through the side. So yeah, that reminded me. But if it's connected like this, you would just plug in the USB cable on the top, and it's gonna charge the whole thing together. Can hard-coded shortcuts be turned off?
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
these
they're
5 shortcuts.
But they're pretty set aside. So these are the 5 keys. Instead of turning them off, I guess you could just not use them. And also, can these be reprogrammed through that over-the-air thing you were talking about?
I guess they wouldn't be programmable by the user's end. Like we would have to do work.
Oh, okay. So these are not programmable. nor can they be turned off. But you could just not use them, I guess. Um, Michael Stein, you're saying, but you need USB-C with DisplayLink? No, we don't use DisplayLink. It's our own licensed software, so it's not DisplayLink. If you have USB-C, you do not need any software. USB-C, or I should say most USB-C, like 90% of USB-C ports, they come with native DisplayPort signal, so you wouldn't need any kind of software for that to work. For our keyboard, you would only need it in two instances. One is when you use it with a USB-A port, or you have one of these weird USB-C ports that doesn't have DisplayPort signal, which is very rare. So I guess if you have USB-C, plug and play 90% of the time. If you don't have a USB-C, or in the 10% chance that your USB-C doesn't have DisplayPort, yes, you will need to install the driver. For the keyboard, when connected via cables, does it work wired if there's a problem with Bluetooth? No, the keyboard is only sending power and video signal into the display, and touch signal back the cable, not the keyboard, back into the computer. The keyboard itself does not work as wired. It will only work with Bluetooth 5.0. And this works with Linux. The keyboard and the monitor will work perfectly with Linux. What I mean by that is the keyboard, you could type and do all that stuff on it. The hotkeys, there are 5 hotkeys. There's lock, calendar, email, browser, and tab switcher. Can you remind us which 2 keys won't work with Linux?
It's the calendar and the mail.
So on Linux, calendar and mail won't work. The other 3 will. The display, touchscreen will work just fine on Linux. You could use this as a peripheral display to hold other things like your calendar, your notes, that kind of stuff. Our app will not work with Linux. So other than the app and those 2 out of the 5 hotkeys, everything else will work. Is there a USB-A driver for Linux? No, the chip we use does not support USB signal over Linux. So if your Linux machine doesn't have a USB-C port with DisplayPort signal, the display won't work, but the keyboard will still work. But I guess that's not really like a Linux thing. It's really like a hardware thing. But most computers these days, they have a USB-C port with a DisplayPort signal. On which Linux did you test the display?
I think we tested it on Ubuntu.
Ubuntu, which version?
You don't have it on top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah. I post the response.
I think that's something we'll have to post back on. Yeah. I don't think Jason tested it on Linux. It's somebody else in our office did. And we didn't test it as thoroughly as we have on Windows and Mac. But we'll get you a response on the version of Ubuntu we tested on. Any plan for armrest attachment? Yeah, we talked about it, like a gel pad that would sort of house this so you could rest your wrist on it. I think we do have plans for it, but not anything immediate. So this is a new product for us. If it really sells well, we'll probably invest in the tooling to create peripherals for it. But if there isn't a lot of interest or volume, there would be even less volume for the armrest. So it really depends on how sales go on this new product. So I think that brings us to the end of the live stream. Thank you everyone for watching. We're gonna be posting this video on YouTube, and we'll share a link in the updates. So the questions we weren't able to answer, we're gonna investigate and leave it as a comment under a video. Other than that, feel free to leave us comments on Kickstarter. The product itself is slated to ship, I think, mid to late September. It's actually in production now. We're in the middle of manufacturing 200 units. Once we test those, we're just gonna blow out the rest of them. So it would be pretty quick. Um, but I think things do happen. I think we've been late shipping every single one of our campaigns, so I wouldn't be surprised if we're delayed a week or two on this one as well. But we're in pretty good shape. I think we've been in this is the best shape we've been in among all of our campaigns. So hopefully we'll be able to ship to schedule, and everyone should start to receive this in September. So thanks again for coming. Thank you for your support. Leave us a comment, and have a good night.
Thanks, guys.